The act of tipping was earliest recorded in the 17th century in England, where it was customary to give small amounts of money to servants and other household staff for their services. The practice was later adopted in America in the late 19th century when restaurants began to hire servers and waitstaff. Over time, the custom of tipping has evolved into a complex system of gratuities, with customers expected to tip not only their server, but also restaurant staff, such as the bartenders, busboys, valets, etc. Today, tipping remains a controversial issue, some arguing that it incentivizes good service and provides a way for workers to earn more money, while others argue that it allows for discrimination based on race, gender, and appearance, and higher wage disparities among staff. Tipping in restaurants, I believe, should be mandatory, because tipping is necessary to ensure good service. It incentivizes the staff to provide better service, such as regulars who leave big tips versus regulars who are known for not tipping. They get less attention versus the other people. Tipping is also the wage. Here in the South specifically, they pay $2.13 for servers, and you get paid for your tips. So we don't see any of that money. I am personally serving. We don't see any of that money. It all goes to taxes. In other places in America, they pay higher wages, like places in California, they pay $12 to $15 an hour, but that's also based on the cost of living in there. So their $12 to $15 an hour plus tips is what our $2 plus tips is. Without the promise of tips, some staff members may also provide subpar service, like I was saying, but tipping can also lead to biases and discrimination based on race, gender, and appearance. That's a big thing that you hear in the restaurant industry, is like they see somebody in their section and like, oh God, there goes my tip, based on certain factors, which is the reason that people believe that tipping shouldn't be mandatory. Another argument is tipping ensures fair wages for restaurant staff. Many restaurant workers rely on tips to make a living wage, and tipping allows staff members to earn more based on their performance. Where I work, I am a waitress at Chili's, and we have scores, we have surveys that the customers will take after they've been served, and if they pay with a credit card, they can take the survey. And whoever has higher scores, they get more hours, they get the hours that they want. And if you have less scores, it's based on server attentiveness, and it's based on if the guest had a problem. But tipping can also be unpredictable and very unreliable, which leads to many wage disparities among restaurant staff, which is a big argument for why they should just pay servers a livable wage instead of having to live on tips. Because you can go in and feel like you're going to have the best shift of your night, and it just depends on the quality of people that you have in your section. Because you can be super busy and only leave the night with $100, where some people will leave that same night not nearly as busy and leave with $250. And also, another reason I feel that tipping should be mandatory is that alternatives to tipping may not be feasible. A service charge can lead to higher menu prices and may not be well received by customers, leading people not to go out to eat. And eliminating tips may lead to a decrease in revenue for restaurant staff, because if less people go out to eat, that's less sales, which also in turn affects the hourly workers as well. It doesn't just impact the servers, because everything's ran off of labor. So if they're not making enough money to support the labor, they have to send people home. Mandatory tipping may be seen as an extra expense for some customers, though, and they may not want to do it. But a mandatory tip would be the exact kind of same thing as a service charge. So it's just based on how people view it. I still personally believe that tipping in restaurants should be mandatory. I think it's easy to say, why don't restaurants just not pay their wait staff enough? But in turn, it would drastically decrease the amount of people that go out to eat, in turn destroying the restaurant industry as a whole. Because it not in turn just affects the front of house, it affects the back of house as well. Sales affect every person who works in a restaurant, so providing lower cost on food and servers, depending on tips, generally guarantees greater success of a restaurant. Thank you.